Mino Line Media presents the Business First Podcast.
Hi, all, and welcome to a new episode of Business First with Sonia Aline. I am your host, and today we welcome in studio Dr. Raymona H. Lawrence, who is the CEO and founder of Raymona H. Lawrence Coaching, under which she is a speaker, corporate trainer, consultant, and separately, she is also a professor of health policy and community health in the Jin Ping Su College of Public Health at Georgia Southern University. Welcome, Raymona. How are you?
Thank you. I am so excited to be here. I have listened to your podcast and it is absolutely amazing. And so I'm just absolutely honored that you would have me on. So thank you.
Oh, thank you for being here. And I know that our listeners are going to enjoy this conversation because you are a busy lady. And so there are a lot of things that you are doing under your company, but also as a professor. And just in the system that we are in right now, this is an environment that's in flux politically in terms of business, and people are just trying to figure out where they fit in and what they can do to maximize their potential. And one of the things in your bio that I liked was it says that you like to challenge broken systems that keep people from reaching their potential. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times we're not talking about the broken systems. And so when you say that, what is it that you are looking at?
Yeah, so I think I have to start to answer this question by giving you a little bit of background about how I got to the point of operating really in broken systems. And my lens, I always tell people, is I'm an African-American woman from the Deep South. I grew up at the corner of black and blue, and I also have a chronic genetic disorder called sickle cell disease. And so when you think about growing up as an African-American woman in the Deep South, there are those types of systems. And then, my dad was a police officer, so I got to just walk in the police department and say, hey, buzz me back. I had extreme privilege in that area. But then I realized as the years went on that not everybody had that type of privilege. And so I realized that those types of systems were broken. The justice system was broken. And then I, growing up with a chronic genetic disorder, had to navigate the health system. And I was always told I wouldn't be able to run and play with the other kids. I wouldn't be able to graduate from high school or on time. There's so many things I would not be able to do. And I remember looking at the doctor and saying, well, I can't run and play with the other kids because they just don't run fast enough, right? I just had that thought even from being a little child. And then I was raised in a college of public health, where I was hearing about health inequities, health disparities, those types of things. All of that came together in my background. And so once that came together in my background, I started a business, and that business was in network marketing. So that was my very first business. And so when I came into network marketing, they said everybody with skin and hair can get to the top of this company. But when I looked at the top of the company, nobody had skin and hair like mine. And so I knew that within the 40 years that this company had been around, that there is no way that an African-American woman had not worked hard enough to get to the top. There was something else in the bigger system, right? And so I said, I am going to challenge broken systems that keep people from reaching their highest potential. I'm not going to tell people that they are not working hard enough. I'm not going to tell them they're not exercising because they just are lazy. No, something in your environment might cause you to not want to go outside and exercise, right? And so I started to see the bigger picture and all of these systems that I had to navigate from my childhood on up until I had my doctoral level education. And so that's kind of how I got there. That's why I challenge broken systems, because I've had to do it throughout my entire life. And people always say the thing that just angers you and it just fires you up, that's what you should be doing. And so that's how I got here. And that's why I challenge broken systems.
Wow. And the reason I said that, we don't talk about it, somebody might say, we always talk about broken systems. But I think we always acknowledge them. right? And to your point, because of these broken systems, we just we tell ourselves, or we tell our children, or we tell our friends, you just have to work harder, or you have to work smarter, or you have to figure it out, or you have to, as we were told as kids, you have to work twice as hard. And so, and I always say too, right? Like, these systems exist, they're going to continue to exist. It's the fabric of our society. Is it really possible to challenge these systems? It's a personal question for me. Is it really, is it worth the effort to challenge the system, or should we just be focusing on, like, how can I work harder, or how can I work smarter, or how can I figure this out?
Yeah, it's absolutely worth it, right? I think I look at the people that have come before us, and if they hadn't had the courage to challenge broken systems, we wouldn't be where we are now, right? I don't have to get sprayed by a water hose when I go to school. I can sit with people that don't look like me in many different instances where my grandparents and their parents couldn't. So yeah, it's absolutely worth it to challenge the broken systems. We don't always see the amount of change in our own lifetime, but I think when we pay it forward with what we're doing now, and I don't necessarily have to be a civil rights advocate in the way that Martin Luther King did. Right now, I need to open up other doors for my children, and I'm having to disrupt things in different ways. And so I think it's absolutely always worth it. Is it hard? Yes. Is it worth it? Absolutely. Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So talk to us a little bit about what disruption can look like. Because I think when we do think about fighting the systems, we do think that we've got to be an activist of some sort, or we've got to, join some organization. But most of us are facing these broken systems almost every day. Sometimes we don't even realize what it is, because we work through life and go, well, that's just how so-and-so or X, Y, and Z is.
Yeah.
What does disruption look like, particularly as a business person, in these systems?
Yeah, I think it's challenging whatever is that small puzzle piece that you are really wanting to affect. And I think when I tell people often about disrupting things, or about the challenge and the change that we need to make, they think about going out carrying signs and marching on the street and all of that. And that absolutely is powerful and has its place. But you can disrupt things in your own community. When you see children who don't have playgrounds, and you're the one that's standing up at the board meeting saying, no, we need to make sure that our environment is safe for our children. If I'm in business, I've read statistics where women, especially Black women, only make $24,000 a year in their business. I want to disrupt that. So what I want to do is say, how do I help women to set up systems that are going to ensure that they not only start a business, but they continue in the business, they launch things that they need to, and they make money. And so it depends on you. What is it that bothers you, that I was talking about in the beginning of this? What is it that really just irks you? And you say, I can do something about this. And the way that you can determine your disruption is often by something that you've been affected by. So as I said in the beginning, I was born with sickle cell disease. I might not care as much about sickle cell if I wasn't born with it, right? So I was born with it. So I had to learn to navigate it. I had to survive, right? And so once I started to see the things that I had to go through, then I knew that was my area of disruption. I have now run a $10 million sickle cell study in 14 sites in 8 different states, because I was born with sickle cell disease. And so I took that, turned it around. And so that's what we have to do. We have to think about, what is it that's affecting me? There's a reason for that. We don't go through pain and discomfort for nothing. And so we look at that, and if that's in business, what is it that bothered you about business? Were you not able to get funding? Show other people how. Were you not able to launch things? Show people how to execute, those types of things. And so whatever has bothered you, whatever is the pain point for you, turn it around and then make it something that is healing for someone else.
Right. And you're also explaining that it can be in small acts. It doesn't have to
Hmm.
be, again, when we think of a system, right, we think of this overpowering set of circumstances that, like, who could possibly overcome them? But you can
Hmm.
overcome a lot of things in just small, meaningful ways.
Yes.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about your consulting firm, and was this all part of it? Was this drive to disrupt systems was an important part of why you created your business?
Yes. So in my business, I do speaking, coaching, and consulting. And so I actually started the speaking piece because of the fact that I was in network marketing and they wanted me to come do diversity, equity, and inclusion speeches and training for the consultants. And so they were flying me all over the country and they said, come and talk to the consultants about DEI and let's make sure that they understand some of the things that are dynamics within team building. So I did that, but they filtered me. And so
Mm,
I said, I actually have the skill set. And so I can start the business myself. And so I started to speak and do things with diversity, equity, and inclusion in other arenas besides just in that particular company. And so with the consulting, I also do consulting with larger companies like pharmaceutical companies. And that really came from the work that I do with community engagement. And
mm,
so as I was pulling together people that were physicians with community based organizations, with patients, I realized that there was something different that had to happen to really get those people to work together. And so when academics try to connect with communities or pharmaceutical companies try to connect with communities, there was a break there because they didn't speak each other's language. When we say this word engagement, nobody knows what it means. It sounds great, but what does it mean to engage? We all use our own lens to define the word engagement. So then the company was saying, the patients aren't engaged. And the patients will say the companies aren't engaged. And it's just
right.
because we all measured each other against the standard that was in our own minds. And so I started to put together frameworks that would help people to understand how we authentically engage multi stakeholder partnerships. Then I also work with women and minorities in business, and I do that in the piece of my business called the Systems Boutique. And we look at how do you put together all the things that you need in your back end, and not only in just the systems and the tech in the back end, but how do I give you the support that you need to launch things? Because a lot of times what's happening is we all have these individual pieces of tech. They don't talk. We don't know what they mean. And then we never launch anything and we're not making the money and we're not making strides in our business. And so all of that is part of the Dr. Raymona H. Lawrence LLC company. And I do that to train people and make sure that I not only open doors with this larger diversity, equity, and inclusion conversation, but when I open the door, I need you to have the skill set to walk through it and sit at the table. And so that's
Absolutely.
why I have both of those pieces, because I love opening the door, but I don't want you to go in without the skill set to be able to thrive, because that system is still broken.
Right. So you
Mhm.
mentioned systems and you mentioned engagement. What are some of the things that you feel businesses really struggle with? Is engagement a bigger piece, or is the systems, or is it all part of it? Is it, across the board? Those are the things that businesses are struggling with.
I think it is all across the board. It depends on the particular business. When I talk with pharmaceutical companies and companies like that, it's the engagement piece. I really think that there's such a gap between the power dynamics of those big types of companies
Mhm.
and the people that they really serve, and they're trying to get the drugs or whatever medicine out to, that is an engagement problem. When I talk to women in business, I often think that there's an issue with their systems. And a lot of people they see things that other people are doing, but they don't know what is behind it. And so they say, I'm going to do this challenge, I'm going to do this webinar. But then all of the things that you need as far as registration pages, emails, all of those types of things that people are doing in the back end, like how long before do you market? We need to have these things happening. They don't know any of that. And so it's like, I'm just going to run a challenge and I'm going to put it on my Facebook page and hope people will come and do it. And then nothing happens. And we wonder, why is it not working for me? They're making millions of dollars, but it doesn't work for me. Why? And it's because we have broken systems. We only see one piece of it, and we don't have the full picture of what's really happening behind the scenes with that challenge, that webinar, how much money they're spending on those ads to get enough people there to have them to convert. Like, all of those things are so important. And so I really teach the women that here are the things that really happen behind the scenes, and these are the things that you need to have in place. And then I give them the team to be able to do that, because we're busy, right? It's difficult sometimes to get all the creatives and all the assets that we need to launch things. And so I make sure that they have that support.
Yeah. What have been some of you go into a lot of this work knowing what some of the challenges are, but what have been some of the, surprises or aha moments for you in doing this work, particularly working with large companies and working with smaller businesses?
As far as the work with community engagement, or which type
with either, in terms of, so let's start with the bigger companies. What has been some of the, like I said, you know what some of the challenges are when you're working with them, but what has been maybe your biggest learning from actually helping them understand what the challenges are and how to overcome them?
I think the biggest thing is that a lot of times people they're not being self-reflective. And that is the hardest thing for them to grasp, that it's not some huge tech issue. It's not some huge learning that we need to do. It's the self-reflection. And so what happens is the way that you do things outside of the company is the way that you're going to do things when you come and interact with people in the company. So I can't take off my diversity, equity, and inclusion hat and go out and hang out with my friends and say things that are derogatory towards people, and then come back into the office and be a totally different person. That we can see right through that. And so it's difficult for people to understand that it all has to start with what's going on in the individual. We all have to be self-reflective. And so that's one of the biggest things that I've seen, is that people are really not self-aware. They say, I am very, very open to other people. I am here and I'm willing to do all the things. And then when I ask them to do something, for example, I will give a kind of a test in the beginning when I go and work with a company. And I'll have them to stand up and dance. And I'll play a song and I'll see who dances. And if they don't dance, I can kind of see they're kind of sitting back and they're reserved. And then there's others that are really into it. And I say, oh, I bet that this feels a little bit uncomfortable, right? And so they'll say, yes, it's weird to dance. We're from pharmaceutical or big academic companies. And then I say, but you just told me you would do whatever it took to reach the community and to engage with them. But you can't just dance and get out of your comfort zone right here, right now. So are you really willing to do what it's going to take to engage with these people who don't live the same life as you, who don't look like you? And so that self-reflective piece is so important. And I really can't do anything else until people are willing to do that. And what I've learned is that is so very difficult for all of us to really just reflect and say, I really do have to work on this, because we want something else. We want a formula. We want something that somebody comes in and tells us, and it's like, no, you got to start here. And then we can expand and get and grow so that you can connect with your community. But some of us have not even connected with ourselves, but we want to connect with other people, and it's just not possible.
How difficult is it to do that type of work in a major corporation?
Hard.
Yeah, I would imagine.
It's so hard. It is so
Yeah.
hard because, like I said, it's like, oh, this is the touchy-feely stuff. It's fluff. I don't want to do this. Get to the strategy. Tell me what I'm going to do. And I'm like, this is the strategy. You have to know this piece, because if you don't do this, you're going to negate everything else that I teach you, because you're going to go back to what I said in the beginning, your lens. You're going to continue to look through things and you're going to see something. It's just like when we all watch presidential debates. We can look at the exact same thing, but we see things differently. We hear things differently because our lens is different. And so that is the problem with companies and executives, is that they're coming into things with their own lens, and they're saying, you're not engaged. You're not doing the things that you should do. Everybody in the United States can get to the top. We can all do the same thing. Just work like I did, and you're fine. You are going to be okay. And although I absolutely agree with hard work, we are business owners, and that is what you have to do. There are still circumstances and situations that are holding people back, right? And so we it's hard to get people to really stop and to absorb that piece of things.
Right. What has been the feedback from folks who get the breakthrough? What do you hear from those folks?
Yeah, they are absolutely loving it. Once they do it, they're actually able to make the connections, and that's what's happening. It's like, it's not even the feedback from them that they tell me; it's the feedback from the communities that they work with, because now we have change. Now we have the connection, and the community says, they get it, they get me. Because when you go into a community, it's just like if I went into your house and I said, Sonia, you need to move this lamp over here. You need to move your couch over here, because I'm a feng shui expert and I think that it should be in a different place. And then you're going to look at me like, Raymona, you are crazy. Get out of my house. You're not telling me how to arrange my house. But that's what we as academic researchers and business owners or whoever we are with our titles and all of this. This is what we do when we go to communities and we say, we know what you need. Now accept what we're giving you and vet it. And often the community is like, no. And so that's why we do in business market research. We need to know what the community really wants. What are they going to absorb? What are they going to take in? And that is what we do. We don't just do our own thing because it's not going to sell. And so it's the same thing when I work with pharmaceutical companies, the academic researchers. They have to do that work, and they have to authentically engage.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you must be an amazing professor, because that is our challenge with, like, we love professors because they have all of this great knowledge, right? But sometimes it's just too academic or it's too scholastic. And for you to have a certain level of information and understand how it needs to be received for proper engagement, your students must like you a lot.
They do. They have given me some great feedback, and I love them. And I think that it's so important for us to really think about how we break things down in a way that we're not trying to be the smartest person in the room. We're not trying to overtalk people, because we're not making change. All we're doing is saying, I'm Dr. Lawrence. I have this power over you. I'm smarter than you. And then we come in and they just shut down. And nobody makes any kind of change. And so I've got to come in the room knowing that you are the expert in your own life. You're the expert in your own community. Even though I have sickle cell disease, I'm not the expert in your life in sickle cell disease, right? And you're being the person that I'm talking to.
Right.
And so I always have to humble myself and say, I don't know everything. I know my experience, and I'll bring all that I've got to the table in any way that I can to serve you, but I don't know everything. And so how do you give me the information that I need to assist you and to serve you in any way that I can?
Which is excellent advice no matter what line of work you're
Mm-hmm.
in, and who you're overseeing or who you're managing. That's excellent advice. And so now if we go to the small businesses and the women-owned businesses that you work with, what has been, again, going in and knowing the problem, the systems or what they need, what has been your biggest discovery in that area in terms of having worked with these women and seeing how they respond?
A lot of women don't know how to connect the dots. And that's what I do. I connect the dots. So we can have a lot of different systems. We've got, Acuity, and we've got whatever we need for our email systems. And we've got 5 things that do this and 4 things that do that. And we're wasting money, we're wasting time because we just heard somebody say that we need this particular app, or we need this particular email autoresponder, or we need this particular thing. We never know the full functionality, and we don't know how everything talks. And so what I do is say, what is it that you have? Tell me all the things, and let's talk about what you no longer need. Let's do a systems audit,
Right.
get rid of some of that stuff. And then how does it all talk together? And I own the Systems Boutique, which is an all-in-one CRM that has every single app you could possibly need in it. And so it helps because everything talks. And so there's not a lot of different apps that they're purchasing and buying. And so that's the biggest thing, is that people don't really connect the dots. Another thing is that I work with a lot of women who do service types of businesses. And so, for instance, if they are a consultant, that's a way of serving. If they're a speaker, they are out serving. If they're doing things like that. And what happens is, if you get sick, if there's anything that goes on and you have to cancel a gig, a booking, a speaking engagement, your consultation that you had to do, you don't make money.
Right.
And they often don't have that monthly recurring revenue, the MRR, in another way. And so I help people to set up the community where they have recurring revenue. So if something happens and you're not able to do your service, like I have a physical therapist, I have speakers, I have people that do things like that. So if for some reason you're not able to go out, what is the community or the thing that you have that you can sell monthly to an individual that makes sure that you have that income along with the income that you have from your speaking, your physical therapy, your other types of services? And so I think that we really miss sometimes this piece of the business model, because we go to a bank and we tell them, I've made $100,000 because I've launched and I've done this. And they say, but your business has no real income because I can't depend on you to have money monthly. And so I think that's a huge break in the system, is how are you having that monthly recurring revenue coming in along with these other things that you're doing? And a lot of times, for me, it's the Systems Boutique where people have all their systems in my platform, right? And so they pay monthly to do that. For some people, they have communities. I have a speaker that has the Heartwork community. And so they pay for that each month. And so she has that income as well as the income from speaking. And so I think that piece is what we are often missing. How do we make sure that we have that income that's coming in each month?
All right. Well, what's next for you and your businesses? Like, you have a lot. You work as a professor. You do
Yes.
speaking engagements as well. You have the consulting, which is all under your consulting business, and you're working in communities specifically around sickle cell, and particularly in places that don't have the support that they need. First of all, how are you able to do it all? Right. And then what do you think is next for you and your business?
Yeah, so I'm able to do it all because it looks like I'm doing a lot of things, but for me, I'm doing one thing. I'm challenging broken systems that keep people from reaching their highest potential. And so I think of that in everything that I do. So I do community engagement, right? And so I'm not doing a whole lot of things. I just do one thing a lot of different ways.
Okay.
And so that's how you have to start to conceptualize the things that you do. If you are a busy businesswoman who also has a full-time job, who also is a mom, a wife, and all of those different things,
Right.
it's
Which
like,
you are.
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
And so it's like, what is the thread that comes through this? And I learned this from, I think I was listening to something by T.D. Jakes, and he was saying that there was one thing that he did, right? And that he was a communicator, I think is what he said. And
You're
so
absolutely right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually had that conversation with him.
Okay. So years ago, I heard him say that. And so I was like, let me think about what that is. And it has made life so much easier for me. The second thing that I do is build teams around everything. There's a book called It's the Who, Not the How. And so anytime you think about the big things that you want to do, it's who do I need to have on my team and on my side versus how do I get it done? Because I can't get everything done. I have my business manager, I have my mom, everybody who is helping me in the different pieces of who I am. And so I think that that's so important for business owners, is to think about who is the who that I need to really make this happen, because we are so used to just doing everything on our own. We're used to being the nurturers, the givers, all of that. But we have to really think about, how do I move to this next level and get out of these broken systems in our mind as well, because your mind can be a broken system. And so that there's a break there if you think that you have to do everything and that you even possibly can do everything. Right. And so that's how I do that. And so I think about the one thread that goes through everything, and then I build teams around everything that I do. And what's next? I think I continue to challenge these broken systems. I'm going to bring more women into the systems boutique. I'm really moving into this idea of psychological safety within teams, where diversity, equity, and inclusion has really been attacked recently. And as I've studied teams, I've started to see that inclusion is really weaved into having psychological safety within teams. And psychological safety is being able to contribute without the fear of being ridiculed or punished or harmed in some way as you are contributing to a team. And so really focusing on, how do we build psychological safety in multi-stakeholder teams so that we can build these gaps, or build the bridge over these gaps within what, like I was saying before, psychological pharmaceutical companies or academic institutions or anybody who's working with communities, because I really want the community voice to be at the forefront of what we are doing. We don't need to amplify the community voice. We need to just stop muting it, right? The community's screaming. They have been talking loud for many, many years. And it's just, we need to stop muting their voice. And so working with people who are really on the ground, who are doing the work in business, who are out in communities, and really bringing their voice to the forefront of conversations, and making sure that women in business thrive, is what I will be doing next, and for many, many years to come.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing up the idea of psychological safety, because I think that is probably a very challenging space for us, not only just in business, but in society, where we feel like we can't really share how we feel. And I'm not talking about criticisms, just when you feel that you can't express who you are, or you don't feel freely to offer ideas, then you don't have an opportunity to innovate. You don't have an opportunity to be creative. And so particularly in corporate spaces, I would imagine that work is going to be really, really important. And I'm also glad that you brought up the DEI piece too. We didn't get to talk about that because it is under attack. And so for those who that's their work, right? How do you think that is going to shift and change, particularly for professionals and for business owners, where that is the primary focus of what they do?
I think DEI is always going to be necessary. It's always going to be important. I think that we have to be creative though at times and look at the words that we're using. And that's why I started to bring in the concept of psychological safety. And it's sad to me that we focus so much on the words that we forget to do the work. And that's what we have to stop doing. We have to stop focusing on the words. The words will change. The things that we say about it will change. A new word will be in public scrutiny. But we have to remember to do the work. And so I don't think DEI is going anywhere, but the word that we use for it may change just because politics may change it, popular culture may change it, but the work will always remain. And so just so long as we are doing the work. And so I think that that's what's important, is that we have to think about, what does this work entail? How am I truly being inclusive to others? How am I, again, looking at my lens and how I'm approaching other people? Those are going to be the things that are important. And so the job of DEI is definitely being attacked. And I am concerned for people who have that as their full career. But I do think that what we have to do is be creative and say, how are we ensuring that we are continuing to do the work, even if I have to change the name of it a little bit?
Right. Thank you so much. How can people find you and use your services?
Yes, so they can just go to drRamonaHLawrence.com, and that's Ramona with a Y. So I always say, don't forget my Y and don't forget yours. And so it's DR, then RAYMONA, and then H, and then Lawrence, LAWRENCE.com. And you can find out about me there. You can book a call and go into any of the consulting, or if you want to be a part of the systems boutique, it is all there.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much for being here. You offered great advice, as I knew you would. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I thank you all for listening. We'll be back again with another great guest. Take care.
The Business First podcast is hosted and produced by Sonia Aline. Executive producer Ken Johnson. Find the Business First podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Odyssey, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, TuneIn, or wherever you get your podcast. On social media on IG at business_first_podcast. Follow the Mean Old Line Media Podcast Network on IG at Mean Old Line Media. Get the Mean Old Line Media app in the App Store or Google Play. The Business First podcast is a Mean Old Line Media production.